getting your body to run easier. Instead of looking for all of these health hacks and all of these various things that you can try to do to combat chronic symptoms that just continue to come your way, a far more effective strategy would be to invest all of your time and efforts into actually identifying what the source is that's producing these chronic symptoms. Because you're getting frustrated, and I totally get it, by the continuous reoccurrence of these chronic and often debilitating symptoms. And to make matters worse, often it seems as though the manifestation of these symptoms is entirely random, and so we can't quite put our finger on why they keep coming about. But however random it might be, I can assure you that there is always a cause behind the issues that you're experiencing, whether that's chronic gut pain, joint pain, heart issues, breathing difficulties, sleep issues, whatever it might be. There is something deep within you that continues to be triggered, and what it ends up creating is a myriad of undesirable downstream effects. The main issue, though, is although the impacts of this can be hugely significant to your all-round quality of life, the origin or the exact area of the dysfunction that's actually producing these widespread symptoms can often be very well hidden away, and the things that actually trigger its dysfunctional activity can often be very subtle. And this is the exact reason why I'm such a big advocate for being a detective and actually investigating your chronic condition on a bit of a deeper level, so that you're able to pinpoint the exact location of the dysfunction, so that you're then in turn able to gradually correct it. I genuinely believe that the only way it's viably possible to recover long-term from any of these chronic ailments, whether that's POTS, dysautonomia, long COVID, CFS, ME, is to invest all of your efforts into trying to locate the origin that's actually causing your problem. And unfortunately, what I see happen all too often is that the vast majority of sufferers decide to completely ignore this step, and instead what they end up doing is solely focusing on attempting to obtain a solution. But if you really think about it, how can you fix what you don't actually know to be broken? It's virtually impossible. And it's not enough to just say, oh, I have a diagnosis of POTS or CFS or Crohn's disease, for example, because what all of these things are labels that are categorizing the set of symptoms that you're experiencing. They're not in-depth explanations actually describing the source of your problem that's actually producing the onset of your symptoms. And what I personally believe to be the root cause behind many of these long-standing autonomic and autoimmune conditions is certain breakdowns or dysfunction within neuronal pathways, either existing within the brain itself or with the pathways and receptors that are responsible for decoding sensory information that's acquired from our external environment, taking that on board, and then actually relaying that information into the brain. Because the information that the brain receives from the sensory division of our peripheral nervous system ultimately determines how the brain then decides to run activity within our autonomic nervous system. So this includes the function of all of our organs and certain hormonal and chemical releases. However, the hard part in all of this is knowing where the precise location of the dysfunction actually lies. And I truly believe that the only way to accurately gain access to this information is by having the function of your brain and nervous system thoroughly assessed. And in my case, the professional that was able to help me to achieve this was a board-certified chiropractic neurologist, because the testing that's performed by these individuals will check for any abnormal outputs or any abnormal activity that's produced by your brain. And this could be in response to very daily and novel stressors. So this could be a particular abnormal eye movement, an abnormal reflex response, or certain abnormal activity that's being produced in a certain organ within your body. And after assembling all of this information and identifying the precise location of the issue, they can then prescribe you with very targeted neurological exercises in order to correct the dysfunction. And the way they're actually able to achieve this is because these exercises will strengthen the corresponding sensory pathway further upstream, and this will be the precise location that's actually responsible for starting off the chain reaction that leads to the myriad of symptoms that you experience. But I go over all of this and what you can actually do about it in so much more detail in the Unbeatable Blueprint online course. I was stuck in this symptomatic cycle for over 7 years until I learned about some of the key principles involved in functional neurology, which I've broken down into such an easily digestible format so that you can adopt the information yourself and change your own health once and for all. But ultimately, what I'm getting at is the reason as to why the vast majority of those with a chronic and debilitating ailment aren't making any long-term improvements is because they're trying things to attempt to recover whilst unknowingly ignoring the biggest variable that continues to hold their body back. While these neuronal pathways continue to function suboptimally and aren't being addressed, your body will have to work so much harder than a fit and healthy person's at fulfilling and carrying out the most basic physiological tasks. And this is the key reason as to why they can do so much within a given day and face zero adverse reactions, yet you're flat out exhausted whenever you partake in any menial day-to-day activity. It's because your body internally is having to make so many adaptations that it's completely draining all of its energy reserves. So based on what I said earlier on in this video, imagine a situation had occurred where certain damage or dysfunction had been caused to one of these sensory neuronal pathways, and it impaired your brain's ability to actually detect and recognize changes in the likes of gravity, body positional changes, or visual stimuli, basically certain variables that are present during practically every single second of every waking day. Straight away from the get-go, you'd be fighting a losing battle because no matter what you try to do, your body would always be struggling to some degree, and by doing more strenuous or stimulating activity, you'd only be speeding up the time it takes for your body to eventually crash and become symptomatic. So what's the main goal when it comes to achieving long-term recovery? Well, it's to get our body to a point where it's operating in the most efficient manner possible, because this will then in turn offer us the license to gradually build up our fitness and resilience to the stresses of everyday life. Until you pour all of your efforts into identifying and addressing any of these potential dysfunctions, then you'll always be going about life with a metaphorical ball and chain attached to your ankle, and I really can't stress that point enough. So much of recovery isn't a case of giving your body more of something. It's about optimizing its inbuilt neuronal circuitry so that things are able to work more in line with how they were originally designed to function, so that it takes the pressure off of your body and allows it to perform basic physiological tasks much easier. When you are in a position where you are able to get your body into this state, then it will start to function more seamlessly in what I like to call its autopilot mode. This is a phenomenon whereby you stop having to pay so much interest in what is going on in here, and you finally get to start concentrating more on what is happening out there.